fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. Today, I am going to be reviewing probably one of my most anticipated films of the year, and that is Jurassic World Dominion. For anyone who knows me or has ever watched any of the shows on my channel, you all know how much I love Jurassic Park and how important Jurassic Park is as a film for me in terms of starting my love for movies and everything about that film in general. It is probably my favorite film of all time. The franchise as a whole, I actually quite enjoyed Lost World. I hate Jurassic Park 3. I really enjoy Jurassic World, and I downright loathe Fallen Kingdom. So it's kind of a love-hate relationship with the franchise, but none of them, in my opinion, has ever gotten even remotely close to Jurassic Park as a film. But with Jurassic World Dominion, I had a lot of high hopes going into this film because the general thought process of what this film was going to be is the dinosaurs out in the world and how the characters and everything are going to be able to deal with this dino pandemic, basically, of them not being in cages and kind of going out and doing whatever the hell they want, plus them bringing back the OG characters of Jeff Goldblum's Ian Malcolm, Sam Neill's Alan Grant, and Laura Dern's Ellie Sattler. The trailers that we saw, or at least the first trailer, because I didn't watch the second trailer because, like I said, spoilers. At least internally, I think the spoilers for the second trailer tend to give away too much. But what I initially saw in the first trailer, it got me excited. It's the movie that I wanted to see. We're seeing some fantastic shots of the dinosaurs out in the world, and then we get to see all the characters together at one point, looking at what looks like a T-Rex. So I was generally excited going into the movie. Early word of mouth, though, was not good coming into this movie. So I kind of tempered my expectations a little bit going into the film overall. We did shoot a spoiler review of this. So if you guys want to know my thoughts are of the actual film with all the spoilers, check out my spoiler review with Brian Michaels as soon as I get it uploaded. But this is going to be a non-spoiler review. In terms of what my general thoughts were of Jurassic World Dominion, I didn't hate it like I do Jurassic Park 3 and Fallen Kingdom, but I also didn't necessarily love it either. There are some fun parts in the film. I was mostly entertained through most of the film, but there is a lot wrong with this movie. This movie is a mess. It's a mess script-wise, it's a mess dialogue-wise, it's a mess plot-wise. There's a lot wrong with this film, but I was entertained throughout most of it, even with all the messes in this film. The main problem with this film is that initial trailer that I told you guys about, where we are seeing the dinosaurs out in the world and seeing them interact with your everyday people and everyday animals and stuff like that. The movie that I think we were all promised in the previous film, Fallen Kingdom, and the movie that they promised us in the trailers, you do not get that movie. All those shots, all that world that they promised to give us through this whole thing, maybe equals up to, at max, 10, maybe 12 minutes of actual screen time in this film. Outside of those 10 to 12 minutes, this is basically kind of a rinse and repeat Jurassic film, where they're in a secluded area away from the world, and they're dropped in with the dinosaurs and all this kind of stuff, and it's a facto, and that's me going as bare bones as I can with it. If you were expecting a movie where the dinosaurs are out about in the world and we're seeing that, there are glimpses here and there of that, but for the most part, this is another film where all the dinosaurs and the cast are in a secluded area somewhere in the world where no other humans are, at least, regular humans, not the people who work at the establishment, and everything goes, chaos. It's the same film that we've seen previously many, many times before. In terms of the cast, there is such a huge cast in this film that a lot of them tend to get forgotten about and don't get the screen time that they rightfully deserve. There are times where there is so much plot, there's like multiple plots throughout this film, that frankly this movie should probably have been 2 films. The first film should have been the movie that we wanted, which was this, how the dinosaurs are interacting in the real world and how they're trying to fix this and make it so that way they can coexist with humans and the rest of the world. And then the second film should have been what this movie actually was, which was the end game of what they decided to do after the events of the first film. Instead, we get this jumbled mess of a movie where they can't really decide what focal point they want to do at a given time. The main cast, the original cast of Neil, Goldblum, and Dern, they're on their own trajectory story, which that story in itself is something that no Jurassic Park fan has asked for, no Jurassic Park fan wants to see, because it's not very dinosaur-driven. And in fact, the movie Mosaur on itself is the dinosaurs tend to take a backseat to a new threat in the film. If you watch the first initial trailer, you get a quick glimpse of what that threat is, but but they're not in any other trailers. The reason why is because no one fucking cares about this new threat. No one wants to see this new threat on screen, and no one really wants to waste the bulk of the film on this new threat, but Jurassic World Dominion is going to do that. The original, or the new trilogy cast of Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Isabella Sermon, they are following another story that is a little more dino-centric, but nonetheless, we are kind of interwoven between these two main plot lines, where you'll spend about 10 to 20 minutes with this cast, and then 10 to 20 minutes with this cast, and back and forth like a tennis ball match, until the last half hour where we finally get them together. And once we do get them together, it actually is a lot of fun. In terms of how the cast performances, Chris Pratt, I don't know who Chris Pratt pissed off in this film, but he is not given more than 2 sentences worth of dialogue at any given moment in this film. There's only one time in this movie where I think he is actually given 2 sentences worth of dialogue, and that's because he's repeating the first sentence over again. Most of his dialogue in this film is at most five words long. He's there to basically run around and interact with the action sequences, but not really given much dialogue outside of staring or doing the hand thing, which at this film, the hand gesture in this movie is done to ridiculously stupid levels that it starts to become almost a joke in this overall. Bryce Dallas Howard as Claire, I think this honestly is probably her best performance of the 3 films. I've never been a fan, not necessarily of the Claire character, but the journey that they gave Claire in the first 2 films. I felt like her character in Jurassic World was this one way, and then Fallen Kingdom, they completely went a different route with the character that to me did not feel earned at all. It starts in the beginning of Jurassic World Dominion still kind of on that path, but after the first initial 10 minutes, she goes down a different road of her character, which I feel like that character is probably the most earned from Bryce Dallas Howard throughout this film, and I think she does a great job with that character path throughout this film. That's why I think I embraced her character more in this one than I ever did in the previous 2 films. The OG cast, Laura Dern and Sam Neill, are both great in the roles that they are doing, even though I don't give a rat's ass about the plot that they're interacting with. Dern and Sam Neill both fall right back into the roles of Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler. I enjoyed watching them on screen, even though if I didn't really care about the story that they were a part of. Jeff Goldblum as Ian Malcolm, though, to me, if there was a weak spot of this movie, it was probably this aspect. Not that Jeff Goldblum put on a bad performance, because Jeff Goldblum doesn't know how to put on a bad performance. He's just, I feel like for this movie, he's just there to just be Ian and just spout off just random stuff, to the point where I feel like there's no actual script for Ian Malcolm in this movie, except for basically them going, action, Jeff, say what you want to say for the next few minutes, and we'll, just kind of go from there. He's got just some weird things in the movie that to me just don't work. Now, a lot of people seem to really enjoy it because it's Ian, and if you love Ian, he's going to be funny in certain moments, but to me, it just kind of felt like this onslaught of just bullshit that he talks about for most of the film, and it just didn't work for me for the most part. In terms of the new cast, or actually no, Isabella Sermon, who plays Maisie, who was probably one of my least favorite things about Fallen Kingdom, because she's the clone girl, which I thought was the dumbest storyline possible. She definitely gets a lot more to chew on in this film. Her character's development of the clone aspect definitely does change, enough to the point that the whole subplot that is in Fallen Kingdom describing Hammond and Lockwood's story. They completely retcon that and try to pretend that that never happened and give a whole new subplot to why Maisie is kind of created and goes from there. But nonetheless, Isabella Sermon, I think, does a solid job in the film when they actually let her get to deliver some dialogue. The beginning part of the film, she's basically just playing that angst teenager who spouts off 1 to 2 words of disgust because of what's going on with her character, which for the most part in the story, like, they're trying to keep her hidden because people are still trying to find her because she is the first human clone. But when they actually finally let her deliver some actual dialogue lines, and she starts to kind of learn about her past and her mother and stuff, Isabella Sermon, I think, does a way better job, and actually makes me kind of actually like her character overall compared to Fallen Kingdom. B.D. Wong as Henry Wu, he's in almost all of these movies. His character, for some reason, goes from being this this young scientist to kind of the mustache twirly villain to, in this movie, he's kind of playing this almost like he's frail and like almost like he's like sick or beaten down kind of character, and there's no real reasoning for it except for, I guess, he wanted to act that way in this film, and it just kind of felt off from the rest of the performances that we've seen throughout the rest of this film. The main antagonist of the film, if you want to call it that, is Campbell Scott, who plays Lewis Dodson. If you remember the name Dodson, then you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. I absolutely despised this character in the film. He's basically trying to play this like Steve Jobs-esque kind of character where he's kind of awkward and weird. But his character's his delivery, his dialogue, his choices of acting throughout this film, to me, I disliked probably about 80% of what he does on screen. Not everything he does is bad, but a lot of it I was not a fan of. There's one part in the movie where I just despise something that he did, which comes off laughing in front of the theater crowd, but I don't think it's the kind of laugh that you want. It's not like a haha that's funny. It's like a haha what the fuck is going on kind of thing. His character just did not work for me. The 2 characters though that did work for me were 2 new additions to the cast. DeWanda Wise plays Kayla Watts, who's basically kind of become the female Han Solo, who joins this cast. She basically, to me, takes all of Chris Pratt's best lines in this movie. She's quippy, she's funny, she does great action sequences in this. Basically, all the lines that she has in this movie is the same lines that I feel like Owen would have in the previous 2 films, and probably in this movie, but Owen doesn't get to talk barely at all in this film. She's fun, she's energetic, and every time she's on screen, she brings this liveliness to the scene. So she's great in this film, and I can't wait to see her do more things. And then Mamadou Athie, who plays Ramsey, who's kind of this guy on the inside of this group called Biosyn, who's kind of taken over like the InGen-esque aspects of the film. His character goes through so many different revelations and changes throughout the movie that I think he actually does a great job with it, to the point whenever he's on screen, I am actually excited to see where his character is going to go. So for the 2 new additions to the cast, I think it was actually really done really well. Like I said, the plots, there's too many plots in this film. It should have been split into 2 movies. The dinosaurs, when they're on screen, I think for the most part they work really well. There are 2 new dinosaur additions in this film. One, I think, is actually a really unique and interesting dinosaur character or creature that I actually really liked. And the other one, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just another kind of T-Rex-esque kind of character. There's also different versions of the raptors in this film. One of them is really cool that I wish we could have got seen more of, and another one is kind of more a lot like the kind of Indoraptor from Fallen Kingdom, so take that as, a good thing or a bad thing based on how you felt about the Indoraptor. But the biggest addition to this film, and probably what everyone's going to be talking about, is the addition of Beta, which is Blue's baby in the film, and that's not a spoiler, it's in the trailer. Beta is adorable. Beta looks great on camera. It's kind of MacGuffin through the film, as well as Maisie, but it will definitely sell a lot of toys, like Grogu and Baby Groot did. Like I said, the film itself, it's 2.5 hours long. There's clearly some scenes that are cut from this film that probably should have stayed in the movie. But nonetheless, it definitely feels like a long film. Like I said, it's not a good movie. It really isn't. I was greatly disappointed with it. But like I said, I was kept entertained for most of the film. But there's a lot wrong with this movie. Um, is this the last Jurassic World or Jurassic Park film? They're claiming it is, but let's face it, they're probably going to make more in some form or fashion. Will I go see the next ones? Of course I will. Am I going to be excited about the next ones? We'll see. But Jurassic World Dominion, to me, promised a lot, but didn't deliver on pretty much anything that it actually promised, except for the addition of the OG cast mixing with the new cast, which once they did, it's actually very more lively and a lot more fun to watch the film as a whole. But ultimately, this felt like a failure in terms of the Jurassic franchise. If this was the final film in the franchise, it definitely ended on, to me, a bad note. You basically have a franchise of 6 movies where you have 2 to 3 really good ones and two really bad ones, and then one that's kind of in the middle but leaning more towards bad. If I was going to give a score for Jurassic World Dominion, it's going to be around a 54%. Like I said, there are good aspects of the film. There's nothing necessarily wrong with the cast. It's just more the script and the dialogue does not do them any favors. Too many plots to the film that really should have warranted 2 films. And the dinosaurs take a back seat to a glooming threat that no one wanted to see and no one should care about as a whole. And it takes up way too much screen time in the film as a whole. And the new antagonist in the film is atrocious. Do I recommend seeing this film? If you're a Jurassic Park fan, of course you're going to see this movie. If you're not a Jurassic Park fan, I don't see any reason why you would probably want to check this out. It's not going to change your mindset on the Jurassic franchise. I would probably watch Jurassic Park again and learn to understand how amazing of a film that is before I'd probably watch Jurassic World Dominion. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, you have to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Like I said, the spoiler review for this with Brian and Michaels and myself talking about all aspects of the film is going to be up here very soon, probably tomorrow. We also have a review for Netflix's Hustle. That review will be out here shortly as well. And then Brian and myself did a franchise flashback of the Jurassic Park franchise as a whole. That will be out this weekend. And then next week we'll be back for the Actor, Actress, Director Showcase. We will be talking about Chris Hemsworth, Jennifer Lawrence, and Steven Spielberg. And then we also, at the end of the month, will have a Movie Crusaders chat about where we talk about the potential fall of Pixar, as well as reviews for Lightyear, Black Phone, Elvis, and anything else that comes out streaming-wise that's worthy of talking about. But yeah, hope you guys, if you guys go see Jurassic World Dominion, I hope you guys enjoyed it more than I did. But until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.